Some men have midlife crises. I got a wife who's allergic to honesty and a house that's smarter than me. My name is Elliot Marner, and I'm 41 years old with a talent for fixing broken systems and an unfortunate blindness to broken marriages. I should have seen it coming when Taryn started buying lingerie that never made it to our bedroom. Victoria's Secret bags appeared like clockwork, but my wife still wore her ratty college t-shirts to bed. The math didn't add up, but then again, I was too busy debugging code to debug my own life. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Elliot, can you help me with this lighting setup? Taryn called from the living room, her voice honey-sweet in that way that meant she wanted something. I found her arranging our expensive throw pillows while a ring light blazed behind her like a cheap halo. Another collaboration post? I asked, watching her primp for the camera. My wife had transformed our Pacific Northwest smart home into a permanent photo studio, complete with color-coordinated everything and enough ring lights to signal aircraft. It's for the Costa Rica trip, she said, not meeting my eyes. Neil's helping me plan the content strategy. Neil Porter. The tattooed photographer who looked like he bench-pressed protein powder and spoke exclusively in hashtags. He'd been collaborating with Taryn for 3 months now, ever since she'd pivoted from travel blogger to full-time influencer. The guy had abs you could grate cheese on, and the intellectual depth of a puddle. Right, Neil, I muttered, adjusting the smart home's lighting system from my phone. The adventure influencer who's never had a real job. Taryn's jaw tightened. He's building a brand, Elliot. Not everyone can hide behind a computer screen all day. That stung, mainly because she wasn't wrong. While she gallivanted around photographing acai bowls and sunset yoga poses, I kept the lights on by maintaining server systems for a mid-sized tech company. Boring work, steady pay, and apparently the end of modern romance. My phone buzzed with a text from Bianca, my old friend who worked as a flight attendant. Coffee tomorrow? I have some interesting intel about your wife's travel plans. Bianca Rodriguez had been my friend since college, back when Taryn was still pretending to find my sarcasm charming instead of embarrassing. These days, Bianca was one of the few people who still laughed at my jokes instead of rolling her eyes. Who's texting? Taryn asked, suddenly interested. Work stuff, I lied, watching her relax. She'd grown paranoid about my phone lately, which was rich, considering she guarded hers like state secrets. That evening, I tried initiating intimacy for the first time in weeks. Taryn recoiled like I'd suggested we rob a bank. I'm tired, Elliot. This Costa Rica campaign is huge for my brand. Our brand, I corrected. I'm listed as co-owner on the blog, remember? For tax purposes. She waved dismissively. Whatever. The point is, this could change everything for me. For her, not us. The pronoun shift wasn't lost on me. I retreated to my office where 3 monitors glowed with code and half-finished projects. The house's smart system hummed around me. Automated everything, voice controls, security cameras that could spot a delivery truck from 2 blocks away. I'd built us a technological fortress, but apparently forgot to install defenses against betrayal. Around midnight, I heard Taryn giggling in the kitchen. She was texting someone, her face lit up in a way I hadn't seen directed at me in months. Late-night work call? I asked, appearing in the doorway. She jumped, quickly darkening her phone screen. Just Carrie. She's having drama with her boyfriend again. Carrie Walsh, Taryn's best friend and enabler, who drank wine like it was water and treated other people's marriages like reality TV. If Carrie was involved in anything, it was guaranteed to be messy. The next morning, I met Bianca at our usual coffee spot downtown. She looked uncharacteristically serious, clutching her latte like a lifeline. Elliot, I need to tell you something, and you're not going to like it. My stomach dropped. Let me guess. Taryn's not going to Costa Rica alone. How did you... Never mind. Yes, She booked 2 seats on the same flight. The other passenger is listed as Neil Porter. The coffee shop suddenly felt too hot, too crowded, too real. I'd suspected, but confirmation hit like a punch to the solar plexus. "There's more," Bianca continued. "They requested adjoining rooms at the resort. And Elliot? She used your joint credit card for both bookings." I laughed, a bitter sound that made nearby customers glance over. "Of course she did. Nothing says romantic getaway like spending your husband's money." "What are you going to do?" Good question. The old Elliot would have confronted her, demanded explanations, maybe suggested marriage counseling. But the old Elliot was apparently a sucker who believed in happy endings and honest wives. "I'm going to give her exactly what she wants," I said finally. That afternoon, I booked my own ticket to Costa Rica, departing 2 hours before Taryn's flight. If she wanted a vacation with Neil, she could have it, but she'd do it without my money, my support, or my ignorance. I spent the evening transferring our shared funds to accounts she couldn't access, all perfectly legal since I was the primary earner and account holder. Then I packed a single bag and wrote a note, which I left on her pillow. "Enjoy your trip with whoever makes you late these days. Don't bother coming home." E. As I drove to the airport, my phone exploded with missed calls and increasingly frantic texts. But I was already gone, and for the first time in months, I was smiling. The 5-star Costa Rican eco-resort was everything the brochures promised: pristine beaches, infinity pools, and enough Instagram opportunities to choke a influencer. I checked into the presidential suite, the one originally reserved for Taryn and me, and settled in to watch the fireworks. Bianca had agreed to be my eyes and ears at the airport. Her first text arrived right on schedule. "Eagle has landed. Repeat, Eagle has landed, and she's not alone." The photo that followed showed Taryn and Neil walking through the terminal, her hand resting possessively on his arm. She wore the red sundress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed was too fancy for everyday wear. Apparently, adultery qualified as a special occasion. My phone rang. Darren Kim, my work buddy and part-time voice of reason. "Dude, are you seriously in Costa Rica right now? We have the Morrison Project timeline Monday." "Relax, I can code from anywhere. Besides, I'm about to provide some much-needed entertainment for the internet." "This sounds ominous. What are you planning?" "Nothing illegal," I assured him. "Just a little creative problem-solving." The resort manager, a nervous man named Carlos, knocked on my door an hour later. "Senor Marner, there seems to be some confusion. Your wife has arrived, but she is, how do you say, very upset about the room situation." Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, I could see Taryn in the lobby below, gesticulating wildly at the front desk, while Neil lurked nearby looking uncomfortable. She was making a scene, her voice carrying across the marble atrium as she demanded to know where I was. "No confusion," I told Carlos. "I'm the primary cardholder, and I've decided to enjoy my vacation alone. My wife is welcome to make her own arrangements." Carlos looked relieved. Resort staff dealt with plenty of marital drama, but usually not this early in the vacation. Bianca's next text included video. Taryn reading my note in the lobby, her face cycling through confusion, anger, and something that might have been panic. Neil tried to comfort her, but she shoved him away, suddenly aware that their affair was now very public in a resort full of travel industry contacts. That's when I made my first move. I'd co-founded Taryn's travel blog 3 years ago, handling all the technical back-end while she provided content. What she'd forgotten in her rush to play house with Neil was that I still had administrative access to everything: the website, social media accounts, email lists, and most importantly, the brand partnerships. I started with the sponsors. "Dear luxury travel partners," I typed, "I'm writing to inform you of a significant breach of your influencer partnership agreement. As you can see from the attached photographs, your sponsored content creator has used your complimentary press trip to conduct a personal romantic getaway with someone other than her disclosed travel partner. I attached Bianca's airport photos, the room booking records showing 2 guests, and screenshots of Neil's social media posts geotagged at the resort. Everything was factual, professional, and absolutely devastating. The response was swift. Luxury travel partners immediately suspended Taryn's sponsorship and demanded repayment of the trip costs. 2 other brands followed within the hour. But I wasn't done. Neil's modeling agency had strict morality clauses, something about maintaining a professional image and avoiding public scandals. I forwarded them the same evidence, along with a polite inquiry about whether Neil's current behavior aligned with their brand values. By sunset, both their careers were in freefall. My phone finally rang around 8 p.m. Taryn's number. "Elliot, what the hell have you done?" Her voice was shaking, whether from rage or tears I couldn't tell. "I've given you exactly what you wanted," I said calmly, sipping a mojito on my private balcony. "Freedom to pursue your new relationship without my interference." "This isn't what I wanted. You're ruining everything." "I'm not ruining anything, sweetheart. I'm just removing my financial support from your romantic vacation. If you want to cheat, do it on your own dime." "It's not cheating. We're just what? Just friends who book adjoining hotel rooms? Just collaborators who hold hands on airplanes?" "Come on, Taryn. We both know what this is." Silence. Then, "The sponsors are pulling out. Neil's agency suspended him. Do you have any idea what you've done to our careers?" "Your careers," I corrected. "And yes, I know exactly what I've done. I've introduced consequences to your choices. Novel concept, I realize." She hung up. The next morning, I received a panicked call from Carrie. "Elliot, you need to fix this. Taryn's career is over. The whole influencer community is talking about it." "Good," I said. Maybe she should have thought about that before she decided to make me a cuckold. "She made a mistake, but this is too far. You're destroying her life." "She destroyed our marriage. I'm just returning the favor." Carrie's voice turned nasty. "You know what? She was right about you. You are a bitter, controlling loser who can't handle that she outgrew you. And you're an alcoholic enabler who thinks other people's marriages are your personal soap opera. We all have our roles to play." I hung up and blocked her number. By day 3, the resort had become a battlefield. Taryn and Neil were holed up in a standard room they could barely afford, while I lounged in luxury, working remotely and watching their social media presence implode in real time. The travel blogging community was small and gossipy. Word spread quickly about the sponsored trip scandal and the cheating influencer couple. Screenshots of their romantic photos were circulating with increasingly savage commentary. Neil tried to salvage his reputation by posting a long, rambling Instagram story about misunderstandings and social media witch hunts. It only made things worse. I posted my own statement on the travel blog. After 3 years of building this brand together, I'm sad to announce that my wife and I are separating. While I wish her well in her future endeavors, I will be stepping back from collaborative content to focus on my own projects. Sometimes the best travel stories are the ones you don't share. Like, say, your spouse bringing their lover on your sponsored vacation. The post went viral within hours. Returning home felt like entering a crime scene. Taryn had been there. Clothes missing from closets, toiletries cleared from bathrooms, and a lingering smell of her expensive perfume mixed with desperation. She'd also tried to hack back into the blog's administrative panel. My security systems had logged 17 failed login attempts from her laptop, each one more frantic than the last. I changed all the passwords and added 2-factor authentication. Darren stopped by that evening with takeout and moral support. "So," he said, settling onto my couch with Chinese food, "on a scale of 1 to supervillain, how far are you planning to take this?" "Depends," I said, pulling up Taryn's latest Instagram post. She'd uploaded a tearful video about cyberbullying and marriage struggles, carefully omitting any mention of Neil or the affair. The comments section was brutal. She's still lying, I observed, still playing the victim. Maybe because she knows she screwed up? Or maybe because she thinks she can manipulate her way out of consequences. Again. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. N. Neil." The audacity was impressive. "He wants to meet," I told Darren. "That's either very brave or very stupid." With Neil, it's usually both. I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory, public location, and plenty of witnesses if things went sideways. Neil looked like hell. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his designer clothes wrinkled, and his trademark cocky smile was nowhere to be found. "You destroyed my career," he said, without preamble. "You destroyed my marriage," I replied. "I'd say we're even. Taryn and it just happened. We didn't plan it. You just accidentally booked a romantic vacation together? Your credit card slipped and paid for adjoining hotel rooms?" He had the grace to look embarrassed. "Look, I know how it seems. It seems like you're a narcissistic pretty boy who thought he could steal another man's wife without consequences. She was unhappy. You ignored her for months. So you decided to console her with your penis? How noble." Several nearby customers turned to stare. Neil's face flushed red. "You don't understand. What we have is real. It's not just physical. Then you'll be thrilled to know you can pursue your real love while unemployed and blacklisted. Very romantic. I'm not the only one who's going to suffer here. Taryn's career is finished. Her reputation is destroyed. Is that really what you want?" I leaned back in my chair, studying his face. He genuinely seemed to think he was the victim here. "Neil, let me explain something to you. For 3 years, I supported Taryn's dreams. I built her website, managed her technical infrastructure, handled her taxes, and funded her lifestyle while she played dress-up for Instagram. The only thing I asked for in return was basic honesty and fidelity. She couldn't manage either. But I'm not finished. You waltzed into my life, seduced my wife, and convinced her to spend my money on your romantic getaway. You thought I was just some boring tech guy who'd roll over and take it. You were wrong." Neil's jaw clenched. "So what? This is revenge? This is justice. There's a difference." He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "This isn't over." "You're right," I agreed. "It's not." That evening, I received a visit from Carrie. She was drunk, which wasn't unusual, but she was also angry, which made her dangerous. "You smug bastard," she slurred, swaying on my doorstep. "You think you're so clever, don't you?" "Carrie, you're drunk. Go home. Taryn's staying with me now. Did you know that? She's crying herself to sleep every night because of what you did. She should have thought about that before she decided to cheat. She made one mistake. One. And you're punishing her like she murdered someone." "One mistake?" I laughed. "Carrie, she's been planning this for months. The secret texts, the new lingerie, the mysterious collaborations with Neil. This wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a calculated betrayal. You're just jealous because she found someone who actually appreciates her. I'm relieved because I found out who she really is before I wasted any more of my life." Carrie stepped closer, and I could smell the wine on her breath. "You know what? You deserved this. You're a cold, controlling freak who treats his wife like a business partner. And you're an alcoholic enabler who can't stand to see other people happy. But at least I'm honest about my flaws." She raised her hand to slap me, but I caught her wrist. "Go home, Carrie, sleep it off, and tell Taryn that if she wants her remaining belongings, she can schedule an appointment through my lawyer." I closed the door and activated the security system. The cameras would record any attempt at vandalism, and I was pretty sure Carrie wasn't done making bad decisions tonight. Sure enough, an hour later my phone buzzed with a motion alert. Carrie was back, this time with a can of spray paint. I watched through the security feed as she tagged my garage door with "cheater" in red letters. I saved the video and added it to my growing evidence file. The next morning brought a certified letter from Taryn's lawyer, a bottom-tier family attorney who specialized in messy divorces and unrealistic demands. The letter threatened legal action for defamation, intentional infliction of emotional distress, and interference with business relationships. It demanded I remove all social media posts, restore Taryn's access to the blog, and pay damages for her lost income. I forwarded it to my own lawyer with a note. Please explain to these amateurs how the First Amendment works. My attorney, Sarah Chen, called within an hour. Elliot, their case is weaker than gas station coffee. Everything you posted was factually accurate, and you have every right to control your own business assets. But I should warn you, they're going to get nasty. Nastier than cheating on me with a male model? Potentially, yes. Desperate people do desperate things. She was right. That afternoon, I discovered Taryn had created fake social media accounts to spread rumors about me. According to her anonymous posts, I was emotionally abusive, financially controlling, and possibly having an affair with my female coworker. The female coworker was obviously Bianca. Taryn had always been jealous of our friendship, despite the fact that Bianca was happily married and treated me like a brother. I screenshot everything and added it to the evidence file. But Taryn's biggest mistake was yet to come. 2 weeks after Costa Rica, I'd settled into a routine: work from home, order takeout, and watch my ex-wife's digital empire crumble in real time. It was surprisingly therapeutic. Taryn had moved in with Carrie permanently since she could no longer afford rent on her influencer income. Her follower count was hemorrhaging daily. Brands were avoiding her like radioactive waste, and Neil had slunk back to his hometown in shame. I thought the worst was over. I was wrong. The doorbell rang at 7 a.m. on a Tuesday. I opened it to find Neil standing on my porch, looking like he'd slept in his car, which, judging by his appearance, he probably had. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we really don't." I started to close the door, but he jammed his foot in the frame. "You ruined my life, you psychotic freak. My agency dropped me. My apartment lease got canceled. My family won't even talk to me." Sounds like a personal problem. This is your fault, all of it. Actually, it's your fault for sleeping with a married woman. But I understand the confusion. His face twisted with rage. "You think you're so smart, hiding behind your lawyers and your computers, but you're just a pathetic loser who can't satisfy his own wife. And you're an unemployed pretty boy who's about to be arrested for trespassing." I pulled out my phone and started dialing 911. Neil panicked and shoved the door open, pushing his way into my house. "Don't call the cops!" "Get out of my house, Neil. Not until you fix this. Call the sponsors back. Tell them it was a misunderstanding." "Or what?" He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his gym-built physique. "Or I'll make you regret it." I looked at him, really looked at him. 6'2", probably 190 pounds of muscle, and absolutely desperate. A dangerous combination. But I had advantages he didn't know about. "Alexa," I said loudly, "activate security protocol." The smart home system responded immediately. All exterior doors locked with audible clicks, interior lights dimmed to emergency levels, and most importantly, every security camera in the house started recording in high definition. Neil spun around, suddenly aware he was trapped. "What the hell?" "Welcome to my house, Neil. Population, 1 psychotic freak and 1 unemployed pretty boy. Guess which is which." "Let me out!" "In a minute. First, I want you to understand something. You see those cameras?" I pointed to the discrete devices mounted in every corner. "They're recording everything, audio and video. So when you threatened me just now, you created evidence of criminal intimidation." "I didn't threaten you." "You said you'd make me regret it. That's a threat. You also committed breaking and entering when you forced your way into my house." Neil's face went pale. I didn't break anything. Entering without permission is still a felony. But here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize for sleeping with my wife. You're going to admit you were wrong, And you're going to promise to stay away from both of us. And if I don't? I smiled. Then I release this footage to your hometown newspaper, your family's social media, and every modeling agency in the Pacific Northwest. Think your reputation is bad now? Wait until everyone sees you threatening and intimidating a guy half your size. The fight went out of him like air from a punctured balloon. I'm sorry, he mumbled. Louder, for the cameras. I'm sorry I slept with your wife. It was wrong. And I'll stay away from both of you. Good boy. Alexa, deactivate security protocol. The doors unlocked. Neil bolted for the exit like his ass was on fire. I saved the security footage to 3 different cloud servers. That afternoon, Bianca stopped by with coffee and updates from the influencer gossip network. Your wife is not handling the separation well, she reported. Carrie's been posting drunk Instagram stories about supporting friends through hard times and toxic masculinity. Very subtle. What about Taryn herself? Radio silence for the past week, but word is she's planning something. A comeback campaign, maybe? Carrie let slip something about setting the record straight. I wasn't surprised. Taryn had never been good at accepting defeat. There's something else, Bianca continued. I heard through the airline grapevine that she's been asking about your travel history, specifically whether you've been taking trips with female co-workers. She's fishing for affair allegations. Probably. Be careful, Elliot. Desperate people do desperate things. The warning proved prophetic. That weekend, I discovered Taryn had hired a private investigator, a bottom feeder named Mike Stevens, who specialized in cheating spouse cases and insurance fraud. Stevens was about as subtle as a brick through a window. I spotted him parked outside my house in a beat-up sedan, taking photos with a telephoto lens that probably cost more than his car. I decided to have some fun. I called Darren. Want to help me mess with a private investigator? Always. What's the plan? Meet me at my house in an hour. Bring your camera gear. Darren arrived with a professional-grade camera and a mischievous grin. This is either brilliant or insane. Why not both? We spent the afternoon staging increasingly ridiculous photo opportunities. Darren delivered mysterious packages. I received secret phone calls while looking around nervously. We even had Bianca stop by in her flight attendant uniform, complete with an overnight bag and affectionate goodbye hug. Stevens documented everything, probably thinking he'd struck gold. The real gold came Monday morning when Taryn's lawyer called mine with evidence of my multiple affairs. Sarah Chen was laughing so hard she could barely speak. Elliot, they sent me photos of you hugging a married woman, accepting packages from Amazon, and talking on your phone. They think this proves infidelity. Did you tell them the married woman is happily married to someone else and treats me like a brother? I thought I'd let them figure that out during discovery. Along with the fact that your mysterious packages were groceries and computer equipment. This is going to be fun. For us, yes. For them, not so much. But Taryn wasn't done embarrassing herself. The courthouse meeting was Taryn's idea. She wanted to mediate our differences without going through a full divorce trial. What she really wanted was to pressure me into giving her half of everything, including the blog she'd helped destroy. I agreed to the meeting but made a few modifications to her plan. First, I invited Sarah Chen and her entire legal team. If Taryn wanted to play hardball, she'd face professionals. Second, I contacted every sponsor and brand partner who'd been affected by the Costa Rica scandal. They deserved to hear Taryn's side of the story. Third, I reached out to a local blogger who specialized in influencer drama. The meeting would be public record anyway. Might as well ensure proper coverage. The courthouse conference room was packed when we arrived. Taryn's bottom-tier lawyer looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Taryn herself had clearly dressed for sympathy, conservative clothes, minimal makeup, and an expression of wounded innocence. "This is supposed to be a private mediation," her lawyer protested. "This is a public building," Sarah replied smoothly. Anyone can observe legal proceedings. The mediator, a tired-looking woman named Judge Martinez, called for order. We're here to discuss the dissolution of the Marner marriage and division of assets. Mrs. Marner, you've requested 50% of all marital property, including the travel blog business. That's correct, Taryn said, her voice small and shaky. I helped build that brand. I deserve compensation for my contributions. Mr. Marner? I stood, pulling out a thick folder. Your Honor, I'd like to present evidence that Mrs. Marner's actions directly caused the destruction of our shared business. Objection! Taryn's lawyer jumped up. This is mediation, not a trial. Sustained, Judge Martinez said. Mr. Marner, please keep your comments relevant to asset division. Of course. Your Honor, the travel blog generated income through brand partnerships and sponsored content. Mrs. Marner's decision to use a sponsored trip for an extramarital affair resulted in the cancellation of multiple contracts and significant financial losses. I handed copies of the sponsor cancellation letters to everyone in the room. The blogger in the back row was taking notes furiously. Furthermore, I continued, Mrs. Marner has engaged in a campaign of harassment and defamation since our separation. She's created fake social media accounts to spread lies about me, hired a private investigator to manufacture evidence of infidelity, and encouraged her friends to vandalize my property. More documents, more evidence. Carrie's spray painting adventure looked particularly damning on high-definition security footage. Taryn's face was getting redder by the minute. I never told Carrie to do that. But you did create fake accounts to accuse me of abuse and infidelity. That was just... People needed to know your side wasn't the whole story. So you committed libel to tell your side? Her lawyer was frantically scribbling notes, probably calculating how quickly he could withdraw from the case. Mrs. Marner, Judge Martinez said, did you or did you not use marital funds to book a vacation with someone other than your husband? It was a business trip. Neil was my photographer. Who you were having an affair with? Silence. Mrs. Marner? It just happened. So you admit to the affair? More silence. Judge Martinez looked tired. Based on the evidence presented, I'm inclined to award Mr. Marner sole ownership of the blog business, given that Mrs. Marner's actions directly caused its financial collapse. As for other assets... Wait! Taryn jumped up. This isn't fair. He's making me look like some kind of villain. You made yourself look like a villain, I said calmly. I just documented it. You destroyed my career. You turned everyone against me. You destroyed your career when you decided to cheat. I just removed my support from your choices. She was crying now, big theatrical sobs that might have worked on social media but fell flat in a courthouse full of lawyers and journalists. You're a monster, she whispered. I'm a man who got tired of being treated like an ATM by his cheating wife. Judge Martinez banged her gavel. That's enough. Mr. Marner, you'll retain sole ownership of the blog and associated assets. Mrs. Marner, you'll receive your personal belongings and half the value of the house, minus damages for the destroyed business income. Taryn's lawyer was already packing his briefcase. The sponsors were shaking their heads in disgust. The blogger was probably already writing her article. But the real fireworks came in the parking lot. Neil was waiting by Taryn's car, apparently having driven her to the courthouse. He looked even worse than during his visit to my house, unshaven, hollow-eyed, and desperate. How did it go? He asked as Taryn stumbled out of the building. Terrible! He humiliated me in front of everyone. What about the money? There is no money. He gets everything. Neil's face went white. Everything? But you promised we could start over with your half of the business. And there it was. The truth I'd suspected all along. You were planning to take my money and start a new life with him, I said, approaching their car. This was never about love or happiness. It was about cashing out of our marriage. That's not true, Taryn protested, but Neil's expression gave her away. You told me he was loaded, Neil said to her. You said we'd have enough to start our own agency. I thought we would. I didn't know he'd be such a vindictive bastard. Vindictive? I laughed. Taryn, you used my money to cheat on me, then tried to steal half my assets to fund your new relationship. I'm not vindictive. I'm just not stupid. Neil turned on her. You said this would be easy. You said he was a pushover. He was. I don't know what happened. I'll tell you what happened, I said. You underestimated me. Both of you did. You thought I'd roll over and let you destroy my life without consequences. It started to rain, a perfect Pacific Northwest downpour that soaked everyone within seconds. This is all your fault! Neil screamed at me, advancing through the rain. My life is ruined because of you. Your life is ruined because you're an idiot who thought you could steal another man's wife without consequences. He swung at me. I ducked, and his momentum carried him into a puddle. He went down hard, soaking his designer clothes in muddy water. Stay down, I advised. You're embarrassing yourself. But Neil wasn't done making bad decisions. He scrambled to his feet and charged again, this time with real intent to hurt me. I sidestepped and stuck out my foot. He went down again, this time face first into the pavement. Anyone else want to try assault and battery in front of a courthouse full of lawyers? I asked loudly. Neil lay groaning in the rain while Taryn sobbed hysterically. The blogger was recording everything on her phone. This isn't over, Taryn managed through her tears. You're right, I agreed. It's not. That night, I sat in my perfectly climate-controlled smart home, watching the storm rage outside while monitoring the digital storm I'd created. The blogger's article was already live, complete with courthouse photos and a detailed breakdown of the influencer affair scandal that destroyed 2 careers. The comments section was brutal. The internet had chosen sides, and it wasn't Team Taryn. Darren stopped by with pizza and updates from our mutual friends. So, he said, settling onto my couch, you've officially become the most feared ex-husband in the Pacific Northwest. How does it feel? Satisfying, I admitted, though I'm not done yet. What else is there? You got the house, the business, and your dignity. They're both unemployed and humiliated. Isn't that enough revenge? Before I could answer, my security system chimed with a perimeter alert. Someone was approaching the house. I pulled up the camera feeds on my phone. Neil was stumbling up my driveway, clearly drunk and carrying what looked like a crowbar. Speak of the devil, I murmured. Is that Neil? Darren peered at the screen. What's he doing? Something incredibly stupid, I'd guess. Neil reached the front door and started pounding on it with the crowbar, shouting incoherently about revenge and justice. Should we call the cops? Darren asked. Not yet. I want to see how far he's willing to go. The pounding continued for several minutes before Neil gave up on the front door and moved to a ground floor window. He raised the crowbar, clearly intending to break the glass. Now we call the cops, I said, dialing 911, but I had a better idea first. Alexa, activate home security system. Full lockdown mode. Every exterior light blazed to life, turning night into day. The house alarm began blaring, and most importantly, every security camera started broadcasting live to my social media accounts. Neil was suddenly the star of his own reality show, broadcast to thousands of viewers in real time. He froze in the spotlight like a deer, crowbar raised, clearly drunk and clearly trespassing. Hello, Neil, I said through the intercom system. Smile for your audience. He spun around, looking for the camera, and nearly fell over. The live chat was exploding with comments as viewers recognized him from the earlier scandal. You ruined my life, he screamed at the house. You ruined your own life, I replied through the speakers. I just documented it. I'm going to destroy everything you care about. With a crowbar? How very sophisticated. The police arrived just as Neil took his first swing at the window. He managed to crack the glass before two officers tackled him to the ground. The entire arrest was broadcast live to over 10,000 viewers. By morning, the video had gone viral. Secker Crowbar Neil was trending on Twitter. Neil's mugshot was being turned into memes, and I'd received dozens of messages from people sharing their own stories of cheating spouses and public humiliation. But the best part came 3 days later. I was working in my office when the doorbell rang. Through the security camera, I could see Taryn standing on my porch, looking smaller and more defeated than I'd ever seen her. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "What do you want, Taryn?" "I came to apologize," she said quietly, "and to ask for your help." "My help?" "Neil's in jail. I can't make rent. I lost my last sponsor this morning after the Crowbar video. I have nowhere else to go." I studied her face. The perfect makeup was gone. The designer clothes had been replaced with thrift store basics. The confident influencer had been reduced to a desperate woman begging her ex-husband for mercy. "You want me to help you?" "I know I don't deserve it. I know I hurt you, but I'm asking anyway. Let me make sure I understand. You cheated on me with a male model. You used my money to fund your affair. You tried to steal half my assets. You spread lies about me on social media. You sent your friends to vandalize my property. And now you want my help?" She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "Please, Elliot. I'll do anything." "Anything?" "Yes." I pulled out my phone and started recording. "I want you to confess, all of it. The affair, the lies, the manipulation. I want you to admit that everything that happened was your choice, not mine. And I want you to apologize, not to me, but to everyone you lied to." "You're going to post this online?" "Every word." She looked broken, defeated, and completely without options. "Okay," she whispered. For the next 10 minutes, Taryn confessed everything. The affair with Neil, the plan to use my money to start their new life together, the fake social media accounts, the lies about abuse and infidelity, all of it. When she finished, she looked up at me with desperate hope. "Now will you help me?" I stopped recording and smiled. "No." "But you said—" "I said I wanted a confession. I never said I'd help you." Her face crumpled. "You're a monster." "I'm a man who learned not to reward bad behavior. There's a difference." She turned and walked away, her shoulders shaking with sobs. I watched her go, feeling nothing but satisfaction. That evening, I posted the confession video with a simple caption: "The truth. Finally." It was viewed over 1 million times in the first 24 hours. 3 months later, I was sitting on my deck, enjoying a beer and watching the sunset, when Bianca called with an update. "Thought you'd want to know, Taryn moved back in with her parents in Ohio. She's working at a Target now, and Neil got 6 months for the breaking and entering charge. Good for them. Honest work builds character. You don't feel even a little bit sorry for her?" I considered the question seriously. "No," I said finally. "She made her choices. She gets to live with the consequences." "And you're okay with being the villain in her story?" "Bianca, I was already the villain in her story. I was the boring husband who stood between her and her dreams of Instagram fame and male model boyfriends. The only difference is now I'm a villain with self-respect." "Fair enough. So what's next for you?" I looked around at my perfectly organized smart home, my successful career, and my peaceful life. "I'm thinking about starting a new blog," I said, "something about the importance of consequences in the digital age." Sounds ominous. Sounds educational. After we hung up, I opened my laptop and started typing, "Welcome to Consequences, a blog about what happens when actions meet reality in the age of social media." Today's topic: why cheating on your spouse with an influencer is a really, really bad idea. I smiled as I wrote, thinking about Taryn stocking shelves in Ohio and Neil learning about prison food. Some people believe in forgiveness and second chances. I believe in consequences and learning experiences, and I'm very good at teaching.